Hey guys, Tyler here. The Romulan D'deridex class, also known as the B-type Warbird, is one of the most imposing alien vessels in Star Trek, making its first appearance in the Next Generation Season 1 episode, The Neutral Zone. The D'deridex serves as the backbone of the Romulan fleet in the latter half of the 24th century. But besides its iconic appearance, there is one unusual aspect of the D'deridex class, a feature that is, in fact, also used in other Romulan ship classes. As we learn in TNG Season 6, Romulan vessels utilize artificial quantum singularities, as opposed to the more traditional matter-antimatter reaction used by Federation starships. This type of alternate propulsion method might sound completely bonkers, and it does have its drawbacks in universe. But the overall plausibility of using a tiny black hole to power a starship might not be so far-fetched, if still highly risky. In this video, I'd like to analyze the science of the Romulan singularity drive, comparing it to our expectations about interstellar travel in real life. Let's get started. Before we dive in, a word from today's sponsor, Architects of Fate. Hey, are you looking to build an adventure with friends? Well, I just might have the place for you. Architects of Fate is a Twitch channel that specializes in tabletop RPGs with an emphasis on interactive gameplay and storytelling, all for free. Just by jumping into chat, you can make the lives of the game master and players easier or harder. It's up to you. Not only do Architects of Fate play well-known tabletop RPGs like 5th edition D&D, but they also play less common RPGs like Star Trek, Star Wars, Conan, Aliens, and more, plus totally original games like Solar Patrol. Architects of Fate even has community game nights with chat. They're always looking for new games to share with each other and invite you to play alongside them. The goal is to make sure every player and viewer gets their chance to contribute and shine. Started in early 2019 by Chief Architect Nat Too Shabby, Architects of Fate continues his family's tradition of tabletop gaming and late-night storytelling by sharing the experience with everyone. So come watch and join a group of players to write new stories and forge new friendships. Architects of Fate can be watched live on Twitch or rewatched on YouTube at the links on screen and in the description below. Big thanks to Architects of Fate for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the D'deridex class. First, let's establish what little we know about the Romulan singularity drive from Canon. The artificial quantum singularity, also referred to as a confined or forced quantum singularity, serves as the primary power source for 24th century Romulan starships. As such, it gives their vessels some vulnerabilities. If the propulsion system is not functioning correctly or is damaged even slightly, it might show through a ship's cloak as a magnetic disturbance. A singularity signature that's carefully scanned can be monitored through a ship's cloak. Additionally, the destruction of a D'deridex class Warbird's engine core usually leads to the complete destruction of the entire ship. Use of the confined singularity also limits a Warbird's maximum speed. For a D'deridex class starship to match the top speed of a Galaxy class starship, it must exceed its maximum engine output by 30%. Doing this will typically cause the Warbird's warp drive to sustain irreparable damage. The confined singularity can even potentially cause time shifts into the future, as seen in the DS9 episode Visionary. When a singularity is attracted to Delta Series radioisotopes Miles O'Brien is exposed to when a plasma conduit explodes. Oh, that's it? Huh. Yeah, there really isn't much else to go on other than that. There is the fact that the D'deridex hull has a huge, now iconic negative space in it, a design element by Andrew Probert intended to allow the ship's engines to see each other and generate a warp field. But besides this, the role of a quantum singularity as a power source is a pretty straightforward process, at least from the outside. So let's dive into the science. In principle, anything can become a black hole if it puts its mind to it. In principle, anything can become a black hole if you compress it tightly enough. The smallest known black holes that we've found evidence for are still a few times the mass of our sun, but there are some processes by which so-called micro black holes could theoretically form. Most of these processes are natural, including proposed primordial black holes that formed early in the life of our universe, and eternal black holes expected to form trillions of years in the future. But artificially generating quantum singularities is still believed to be within the realm of possibility, although it would undoubtedly require massive amounts of energy. Using a particle accelerator like the Large Hadron Collider, one could potentially smash particles together at high enough energies to produce a microscopic black hole. Emphasis, however, on the word "like," as the LHC itself is nowhere near powerful enough to produce even the smallest black hole possible under the Standard Model, one of 22 micrograms, also known as the Planck mass. Such a feat would require, it's estimated, nearly a quadrillion times the LHC's power output. However, if certain theories about extra dimensions beyond our familiar 4D space-time hold true, this requirement could be lowered substantially to allow black holes to form within the LHC. And it just so happens that Star Trek, as I've discussed before, does seem to confirm certain aspects of string theory, or at least related phenomena like cosmic strings. But even if we didn't have this confirmation, the concept of subspace itself invokes extra dimensions as well. Of course, realistically, such black holes formed by modern particle accelerators would evaporate almost instantaneously due to Hawking radiation. Indeed, Hawking radiation, under which a black hole eventually loses all of its mass and rotational energy, is something that nearly all black holes are believed to experience, although at differing rates. It also just so happens that this radiative output is inversely proportional to a black hole's mass. That's why micro black holes would evaporate very quickly and massive black holes very slowly. And much of the energy of forming black holes through particle accelerations would be in the form of kinetic energy. By concentrating massive amounts of radiation into a tiny enough space, the concentration of light, heat, and energy would be so intense that it would form its own event horizon, a phenomenon in astrophysics known as a Kugelblitz. By manufacturing a microscopic black hole smaller than a bacterium, a civilization could theoretically harness thousands of megawatts or more from Hawking radiation, and it could be kept from evaporating using a process like the Casimir effect, which some physicists have theorized could be used to construct artificial wormholes. But again, it would need to be just the right size. A micro black hole with an event horizon 1 micron, or 1/1,000,000th of a meter in diameter, would give off Hawking radiation at a wavelength of 10 microns and have about half the mass of the dwarf planet Ceres. But it would only generate 2 nanowatts of power, about 5 billion times less powerful than the human brain. A smaller black hole with the mass of a mountain could generate about as much energy as a nuclear power plant, useful for a hypothetical civilization to use as a long-term power source, since the smaller a black hole is, the higher its energy output. As for a black hole at the center of a Romulan singularity drive, well, let's do some rough calculations. The disruptor yield of a Romulan Warbird has been estimated to be, according to the Daystrom Institute Technical Library, about 78,047 terawatts. Assuming this is roughly equivalent to net engine output, using the examples listed above, I believe a singularity with an event horizon of about 200 zeptometers, or in other words, 2 × 10 to the minus 19 meters, and a mass of roughly 60,000 tons, over 2,000 Tsar Bombas, could possibly power a D'deridex class starship, which is over an astonishing 1,300 meters in length, more than twice the length of the Galaxy class. For reference, the power output of the space shuttle was about 27 gigawatts, and the orbiter vehicle was less than 40 meters in length. Of course, you'd need to encase this singularity in a shell, at least several centimeters thick, and made of a substance like tungsten. Besides the sheer heat itself, likely hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit, the Hawking radiation would be shifted so far into the gamma ray end of the electromagnetic spectrum that it would be lethal just to stand next to it. And therefore, in addition to electrically charging the tungsten shell to keep the black hole from escaping, a liquid cooling system would be needed to dissipate the heat. What are we building? A Romulan starship engine or a gaming PC? While it is a very distant technological prospect that we could ever harness enough energy to generate, let alone sustain, a microscopic black hole with sufficient power output and lifespan, in the context of Star Trek, an alien civilization able to harness extra dimensions via subspace, given dilithium crystals, higher dimensional physics, makes this engine rather plausible. That said, as I've hopefully established throughout this video, such an engine concept would still be incredibly dangerous in practice, something that's frequently commented on in the show. In any event, I have another video coming later this year, hopefully, in which I dive into the numerous types of alternate FTL methods featured throughout the centuries and millennia of Star Trek's rich history, and why seemingly none of them were implemented by Starfleet following the notoriously cataclysmic burn. So keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss any future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description. By becoming a patron or member, you get access to awesome perks like behind-the-scenes photos and videos, patron and member-only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description as well. That's all I have for this week. Jolan True. I'll see you next time.